to really go through the new maths or the refreshed maths curriculum. And it was obviously to upskill the teachers. We've had a little bit of professional development, but to actually spend that whole day with the facilitator and really drilling down to key differences, what it's going to look like with against our resource prime. And yeah, it was just a really, really valuable day. So we thank you. We know that teacher-only days can be slightly disruptive. We do have another teacher-only day in term 2, but this is obviously really valuable learning for the teachers. And so we really appreciate this time to be able to spend with a facilitator. So if we make the sign, we'll first of all start with the prayer. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus, we ask for your guidance as we teach our children. Allow us always to experience your presence in the many blessings you put before us. Open our eyes to the challenges and exciting opportunities that new learning brings. Open our hearts and minds to explore new ideas and help us work in partnership to support our tamariki. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So welcome. And I'd like to welcome and introduce, we've got Adele Mail. Adele Mail teaches in Year 2 in the Maramatanga and is part of the maths team. We've got Megan Ackerman. Megan Ackerman teaches Year 5-6, is the team leader in the area of the school and is also part of the maths team. And we've got Angela Cochran, who is the team leader in Year 3-4 and has key workings with the maths team as well. We also have, who's still teaching in the classroom, Megan Kelleher, is part of the maths team as well. And Megan, I just want to acknowledge that has contributed a lot to this presentation this afternoon, but felt that we've got Megan Ackerman who can represent the seniors. So she's in her classroom teaching this afternoon. And we also have Noeline Kenny, who's part of the maths team, who teaches alongside Angela. So we've got quite a big maths team that we're meeting very, very regularly at the moment in order to focus on the implementation of the new maths curriculum and how we're aligning that with our prime resource and what teaching and learning looks like in the classroom so that we can really get stuck into our teaching and learning. All right, so the overview of today is obviously we'll look at the new curriculum, the phases of learning which are within the new curriculum which replace the previous curriculum levels, the understand, know, do, which are the 3 different aspects or the 3 different strands or weaving of the new curriculum. We've got a slide on the key differences between the old and the new curriculum and the impact that this obviously has on students, teachers and parents. Ways you can help at home, and obviously all the way along it's discussion. So if there's something that you want to kind of ask, just go ahead. Obviously we've got our experts here who are teaching the new curriculum, and so they'll just jump in and support, and I'll kind of hand over to them at times as well. So it's kind of a team effort that this is where we're at. And as I said, this new curriculum, it's been brand new. It's been probably the quickest any initiatives ever been brought into education. So we're learning as we're going. So we're certainly not holding our hands up as experts, are we? We're saying that we've had learning on this and we want to share where we're at with you. So we're just being really transparent, and the more learning that we receive and the more that we're implementing into our teaching, the more we will share with you. And so we're all learning along the way, and our job is to help the children to be the very best they can be in maths and to give the very best, to the curriculum. So the new curriculum is split into phases, so 0 to 8, and we've got phase 1, 2 and 3, which is different from the curriculum levels that we previously taught to. It does have a year-by-year sequence, so it's actually, in order to teach it, it's a lot clearer for us than the previous curriculum, because as you'll see as we go through, it is broken into, after 6 months, after 1 year, after 2 years. So it's very, very clear that we can actually see what they're expected to do by the end of Year 2. And so this is what I need to be teaching by the end of Year 2. This is what it looks like after Year 6. And it increases in complexity, and the learning builds on existing knowledge. So we need to put those foundations in place, obviously, in order to build students' knowledge, strategy, and the wider learning. And it is based on this understand, know, and do. So these are the phases of learning. So we've got phase 1, which is 0 to 3, phase 2, which is up to year 6, and then phase 3. We probably don't really need to look at the later phases, but just to know that we will have students in school who are currently in year 6 that will be, because of where they're working, if they're able to achieve everything within that year 6, they'll be beginning to work in phase 3. So we'll never say, actually, we're only going to teach to phase 2. So we need to know beginnings of phase 3 as well. But likewise, there's going to be students who are in year 6 that are still working on those year 5 goals, and because that's learning. So previously, the curriculum levels were, we'd have level 1, and then level 2 and level 3. So it is different. And the questions might be, well, what happens if we've got a year 3-4 class, as we have quite a large in our middle school? But children are being taught, obviously, their year level, but also to where they're at, which we've always done. And I feel like we do that really well in New Zealand. It's that explicit teaching in order to, obviously, it's ongoing assessment. Most of it's formative, which means most of it's as we're teaching and we're observing students, as we're marking work with them. It's ongoing all the time, and you'll assess as in, where do I need to go next with the teaching? Are they ready for this, or do we need to sort of still fill these gaps? So that's where, if you hear about the phases of learning, that's what it means. Okay. And I mean, the key thing is that we develop a comprehensive teaching and learning program, that it isn't just one program. And in terms of, at the end of the year, every school had to make a decision in terms of, there were three providers of resources. We'd already started out with Prime last year as our maths resource. So for us, there wasn't a decision to make. We were happy with Prime, so we decided to stay with Prime. The difference this year is that because we have this very robust curriculum, the resource now is to support the curriculum. I feel like last year we followed the scope and sequence because it's very systematic, and I think we're pretty happy with Prime, aren't we? But what we do know now is curriculum has to come first, and the Prime, the resource, supports that. Now, a lot of schools have got their resources brand new this year, and they're having to make it align. We feel like because we already know Prime, we can actually say, yep, we know how this the Prime resource works. We've got to learn our curriculum, and the practice books and those books will support the teaching of the curriculum. And that's that big important kind of shift. But the whole program needs to be obviously explicit teaching with the teacher. The teachers need to are learning those phases within the curriculum so they can teach explicitly to those. That communication, that backwards and forwards of communication. There's a lot of dialogue in maths. It's about sharing that understanding. The positive relationship with maths. We need to see our children as maths is in the world, maths is everywhere. Maths isn't just in your maths class, but maths is applied in every part, of everyday living. So we really want to grow that love of maths, and seeing maths in very practical terms as well, rather than it's just within a book or within my practice book where I put the answers. And this rich tasks is huge. And sometimes it can be what's missing if we're just very focused on teaching a strategy. We need to give the opportunity for students to apply their maths. So whilst we might be teaching division or multiplication, and the students are showing us they've got a pretty good understanding of that, if then you put it into a problem, they need to be able to know, how do I solve that problem? What's that problem actually asking me to do? And a rich task is where we very, very much sort of think we need to have that very holistic area of maths, that it isn't just teaching pages and pages and children filling in pages and pages within a maths book. I don't know if you wanted to share any more about that.
I think it's where those three understand, know, do come into play, because you've got to know, you've got in the do's help you understand the knows, and the knows.
You can talk to this one.
Yeah. The knows you do, and then you have the knowledge, and then you understand.
Yeah. And it's pointless being able to do the sums or work through a page if you can't apply it in a real life. You can't go shopping and know whether or not you're getting a bargain.
And that's why we focus very much heavily on knowledge first, because you need your knowledge to apply.
And so these are like the strands. You've probably seen this interweaving within structured literacy as well. So it's interweaving all of these so that, to become a mathematician. So these nodes are, say, the strands within that the children are going to be taught in maths, which are pretty simple, the same as just maybe different terminology than the old curriculum. So number, algebra, measurement, geometry, statistics, and probability. So that's what they obviously need to know. And through this doing, through lots of different kind of practice or lots of the practice that they're doing within class, then they'll get to understand. They'll get to understand those concepts. So, and that's how the curriculum is set out in the understand, know, do. We spent a little bit of time looking at this on Teacher Only Day because, this is obviously broken down. Here we've got the knows, the do's, and then this will lead to the understanding. But the real difference between this conceptual understanding and procedural fluency, and the conceptual is I know the why. I know why I'm doing this, and I can apply it into further problems, or I can apply it to different situations. Whereas this procedural fluency is I just know how to do something. So I'm taught how to use an equation. I can solve the equation. I have no idea if it's right or wrong. I haven't got an estimation. I haven't really got an idea of what numbers are, but I know how to do this formula. Okay, and so it's if I'm explaining it correctly. If somebody wants to jump in with this.
I think the next video explains it beautifully.
Let's watch that first.
Okay, well watch this first and then we might come back to this then.
This is what we...
I figure 75% to you, Mom, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Gita, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, the 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
No, you're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25, 5 won't go into 2.
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so it's way down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. There you are. 5 into 25, 14.
No, look, Pa. Now, let me prove it to you now by multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Well, I'm surprised you're learning.
Huh?
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
No, look, Ma. Look, you're wrong there because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14, 14, 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20,
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Hey, come on, price up, Billy. I want to see you boys cheat it.
So you can be taught a procedure and you can be taught and you can do pages and pages of something, but if you have no concept of how the number system works, you have no idea what on earth you're doing. All right, and so that's our job, isn't it? And it's making sure that we are really ensuring that they have that whole view of maths. And so that estimating and knowing if something's right or wrong, just from your concept of number, is crucial. And I don't know if you want to share about this scrapbook.
Scrap paper question. So we gave a question to all children from year 3 to year 6 last year, and the question was 201 take away 198. And we were just given a piece of paper, don't write your names, just work it out, you've got 2 minutes and then you hand it back in. And looking through it's quite interesting because you can really see the children that understand how numbers work. Because they've looked at it and gone, oh yeah, they're pretty close, yeah, cool, it's 3. And there are a number of children that have gone straight to an algorithm. Oh, not 3-digit, that must be a really, really huge number. So they've gone through and they've done their takeaways, and you can see them moving the numbers around, and then they've come up with the answer is 3. So they obviously do not have the procedural and the conceptual fluency yet.
Mm. And it's having a balanced maths program is what gets that. You know, we cannot just teach strategy and give knowledge all the time. It's giving lots of opportunity to practice and lots of opportunities for us to see, have they got that conceptual knowledge? And that's where you see it through problem solving. But you can't just do problem solving without teaching, obviously, the knowledge or strategies. Okay, so what's the difference between the old curriculum and the new curriculum? So the key differences between the old and New Zealand maths curriculum, which is introduced this year, is a shift to more structured maths. It's increased focus on foundational skills and knowledge and clear expectations at each year level. And this new curriculum is, as I said, very clear for each year level, rather than our previous curriculum. It probably was more in levels, wasn't it? And rather than it being, so there was probably, could be less consistency in terms of teacher interpretation, whereas I feel like this curriculum is very precise in terms of that. So there's, you know, less ambiguity. So it should mean more consistency kind of nationally with maths. And obviously the reason the new curriculum was brought in is because it felt like the New Zealand results weren't as high as in the other OECD countries.
So, is it being realistic? We haven't seen the numbers obviously, so do you think it's realistic, the new expectation?
I think we're wonderful, absolutely. And it will take us time to get there.
Yeah, so I was wondering if there's been delay in getting to those.
For some children, I think so, yes, because of what they've been expected to know. But it's so necessary, the way the curriculum has changed.
We also have to remember that it's the whole country that has changed. So we're all working within these new framework, but you know, the children themselves haven't changed. So the goalposts have.
And so it's not going to happen immediately.
Yeah.
You know, if we can't make children almost jump 2 years or 1 year, at least in their learning, but over time it will. You know, and I think that's where we're going to talk about the impact as well, about we all have to acknowledge that and appreciate, and we can't say, well, at year 6, when they're going into year 7, possibly next year, they're all going to be learning at that level, because it's unrealistic to shift the goalposts and expect that learning.
When zero comes through with the, you know, we get the graphs and things, so obviously those graphs will be potentially more unrealistic in the short term because the goalposts have changed so much,
Yeah.
the children haven't.
And we'll scaffold parents around that as well, completely. And that's why we want to get this information out now, so that it's not, certainly won't be that your child's not achieving. Absolutely not. It's just they're being measured against a different benchmark, which,
It's quite a shift.
it is quite a shift.
We need you to understand that. But we do want to get the hero girls out soon so you can actually see what they should be learning in the background, even though the dials won't be up to date, because there's a lot of very proactive parents who love helping children at home, and they can see some things that they can help at home.
Sorry, can I jump in too? Like when we brought in the structured literacy, obviously it kind of it took people back to the basics, to fill in gaps that were missing. I very much remember that. Is that kind of happening now with the math? Are you like kind of measuring where they're at and then potentially filling in gaps that they might have missed?
Oh, absolutely, and that's how we would teach normally, but now we've got benchmarks, especially further, and you know, there's these bigger shifts in the junior school, quite bigger shifts, and we'll show you what they are. But absolutely fill in the gaps. That's where knowledge is. We need to really fill in that knowledge.
And what we can't do is just leap ahead and saying, oh, you're expected to be working with numbers to 10,000. Let's leave off this foundation stuff. You know, and so that it's in terms of the younger children coming in, they're starting with this. But if you're year 5, 6, you know, we've got gaps to fill. And so we're not going to do the students a disservice by not addressing those, you know, because otherwise they're not being set up well to be successful maths learners.
And the other side to that too, they've got gaps to fill, but we also want to expose them, and that's what we bring into our maths program, to what they should be knowing and seeing. Does that make sense? For that year level, even though they're not at that year level?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah, because that's really important too. They need to be seeing what they should be knowing, but then we're pulling the gaps down a bit lower. So it's quite,
Which you would,
our maths program reflects that really well.
which we'll share as well, won't we? So just some implications then for teachers. Teachers will continue to use explicit teaching, which we've always done, which aligns with our Kahawiaka, which is our group of schools. And our strategic aim is for high impact teaching practices. So that's something that we're exploring with our wider group of Catholic schools. We need an increased teacher training and resources to support the implementation of the new curriculum, which we are receiving. Implications for students, so they'll be expected to learn more earlier and at a faster pace. We always have high expectations, so we believe our students will reach there. The curriculum aims to ensure that all students have the opportunity to see the curriculum regardless of their learning pace, which is what I think Megan was saying. We're not put a ceiling on any of our students' learning, but they might only be working with numbers to 20, but we'll expose them to numbers to 100. Because, who knows? Let's always just aim high. Some students may find the new approach more challenging, especially those maybe that learn at a slower pace, processing, but it's teacher knowledge of the students, and we'll scaffold and support them. And implications for families. So parents need to look at how they can support their child at home. Basic facts is a huge one. Times tables is introduced earlier within the new curriculum. So if there's anything you're thinking, how can I support my child at home? Possibly the skip counting in those early years, but times tables probably from year 3 is always one that is hugely important. So this is just a little snapshot, and this is from Dr. Jo Knox, who's supporting us through another part of our maths learning through our Kahawiako. And so if you just see, this is just a snapshot as well. This is only a tiny bit of the curriculum. So previously, the old curriculum, recall addition facts to 20 and subtraction facts to 10. That's now in year 3. All right, so you can see how that's shifted down a year level. And also the multiplication and division basic facts. It used to be at year 4, you were expected to know your 2s, 5s and 10s. That comes down into year 3 now. Okay, and we can share that obviously in year 3, students are being introduced to algorithms, which was previously probably more in the senior school, wasn't it? But in that, they also need to understand what they're doing, so they don't become like those people in that video where they're, and it can look like students they learn an algorithm and they think, why didn't somebody teach me this earlier? Because it makes life easier. But they still have to know, like Adele was saying, if there's 2 numbers that are very, very similar, you don't need to use an algorithm. Okay, so it's ensuring that we are introducing and we're staying true to the new curriculum, but making sure they've got a real concept of number as well.
And the recall means this. It's not getting out a piece of paper to work it out. It means that you just know it fast.
And it's also, like we talked about in structured literacy as well, if things are automatic, like if your spelling's automatic, if you can produce your letters the correct way round, if you know your times tables, it's just knowledge I can retrieve, rather than it being that if I've got to sit and work out and skip count in order to work out what 5 2s are, I'm taking up a lot of kind of brain power, cognitive load, whereas I could actually be using that for more in the problem solving. So anything that we can make automatic for children, same with adults, it takes off the stress of the brain, really, of having to think. So then I can apply my thinking to more of the higher end stuff. And so and times tables are, there's no quick fix way of learning how to learn times tables, is there? It's drills, we were saying before, it's the arrays, so they do understand actually what they're doing.
But I did say if you are learning times tables, which you'll see what they need, like in year 2, they need to know 2s, 3s, 5s, 10s, 4, sorry, in year 4, they need to know pretty much all of them. Year 5, right to 12, but it's division, so if you're teaching 2 times, don't teach your 3 times next, do your division of 2, then teach your 3s, and then do division of 3. It's really important, they're like a series, and they see that reversal. So that was one thing I would really like to get across, teach the 2 together.
Absolutely.
But they were, really fast with the multiplication, then bring them a division of the same number.
And they'll be having support in class with this, won't they? Sorry,
I
Angela.
was just going to say, also ensure if you're doing like 2 times 3, that they know that times is groups of, so two groups of 3. Even initially with some of the year 3s, it might be you're getting out materials, the counters and things, and showing them you've got 2 groups of 3, or 5 groups of 8 or something, so they're learning what that is as well.
And 2 groups of 3 is the same as 3 groups of 2.
Yeah.
And then you show them different ways, but it still has the same product.
And they will be having support with this in class. So we're not expecting you to be doing the teaching at home. So they'll have support as well as their explicit teaching groups with the teacher. They'll have their basic facts maintenance work going on all the time in class as well. So they'll be having lots of practice within class, the same as the peers, the rest of the children in the class. But also, if any support at home, it's just like reading. Often if children are bringing home a reading book, it's the same with maths. What can I do to support my learning in class as well, to make life easier? And that's what it's all about, isn't it? We want maths to become exciting, easy. Hard, it gets hard, but then it becomes easy again. It's a bit like when you're learning to read. It gets more complex. But we want them to be able to have the basic skills so that they can apply it to higher thinking reading. Now, our prime maths, as we spoke about, we are well in the track of using our prime maths. We are adapting the use of it this year, particularly probably more in the junior school, in terms of aligning it to make sure it doesn't. What we need to ensure is obviously the curriculum's first, and the prime resource supports the teaching of the curriculum, rather than there's a fantastic scope and sequence, and you can follow it from the front of the book to the end, and it is brilliant, there's no doubt about it, but some of it doesn't quite align with the New Zealand curriculum. So we've got to ensure, if we're measuring children against a benchmark, that they've been taught that, otherwise we're doing them a disservice. So particularly in our junior school and our early books, some of the concepts are not brought in yet in prime, but they are in the New Zealand curriculum. So particularly probably 0 to 2, am I right in saying that? It would be that obviously it's more, where does that align? Oh, I can use this resource to support this teaching. And as we'll talk about in a little while, our hero goals, we are very, very much looking at those hero goals. And we're asking you, thank you for your patience with us with that. We just want to make sure we've got it right before we put it out live. And then we will make sure that all the children's goals, obviously, are from the new curriculum. And that's another way that you can support at home. Obviously, there's work to be done on the dials and things like that about where they sit within the expected phase of learning now. But yeah, so that's how prime maths supports the teaching of the new curriculum. And this is to share with the TLF maths, if you, this is from your area of the school, Megan.
It's just an example of how we do maths to get it all out there. We've got our explicit teaching through our resource called Prime. Then we've got the curriculum, and that's what I was alluding to, the fact that we've got a maintenance program too that the children are all exposed to in years 4, 5, 6 anyway. That they learn, like all my year 5s actually are doing a year 6 program as well for like a daily maintenance. Monday to Thursday maths program. We also have basic facts every single day to begin a maths lesson. That is, how much you can do in that 3.5 minutes. You're beating yourself. There's no competition against anybody else. And then the TLIF. So this is, we bring in things like moves and proves, and revisit and retain is something that we would expect them to have been taught, but unless you revisit it, they won't retain it. So those is weekly slides that we bring in, something different every single week that aligns with our mental maths program to ensure that they retain what they've been taught. Because if you get taught something, you go on to the next concept, they won't remember it, because it's like fractions every year. The kids find it really difficult with fractions, because in the past you would teach it every 12 months, but that's not great teaching, so you've got to reinforce it through something like this, revisit and retain. And then there's the move and proves and these games that they play as well. So each week they should be getting, they line up all together and they just have their proper answer. They can really talk about the answer together. There's also a discuss and defend. No one's wrong, something like that. This is where maths comes in. You just talk about which one doesn't belong, but they all change. The children give a great defence of why they've got that decision, and then we introduce different games, and they can be very complicated. You can start with very simple numbers, but then make it quite complicated through depending on their level. These generally are shared in Google Classroom as well, so it could be something that you could do at home with your children. Similar games. Usually just a dice or a card. Kids love that. So it's just to complement, again, alongside the prime.
So it's that whole balance, doesn't it? Very, very much balanced. It's not just one resource that we teach from. Just make that bigger. I know you probably can't see this, and it's a bit of a struggle for us sometimes. We have to blow this up, but this is what we were talking about with Prime. So it's and this is how the curriculum is broken into. So we've got during the first 6 months, during the first year, during the second year, third, and that will be fourth, fifth, and sixth. So this is phase 1. And so these are obviously the achievement objectives. This is what you would see in Hero. That's what we're going to be able to see, isn't it? You'll be able to see these kind of goals. That's what it will, yeah, similar. But this then tells the teacher, where can I look in Prime in order to have some resources to support my teaching of that, or maybe some practice. It could be that it's a certain practice book. The children then can go off and practice that concept they've just been taught, or it could be to support the teacher with the actual teaching of that lesson. Okay, and that will look quite different through the school, the use of Prime. I think last year we started our journey and we just were saying, actually, let's just implement it, and everyone was using it in a very, very similar way. But it's not as probably user-friendly, would it be, in the junior years?
For the juniors, we find that there is a lot of language in there. There is a lot of word problems and questions that need to be read one-on-one to a child in a textbook. So although we are using the textbook and teaching the children how a textbook works and where you write and there's boxes to write your answer in, just to make sure we're setting them up for success as well through the school. A lot for the juniors needs to be done orally in small groups. You can get your materials out as well. So I think with what you were saying before, Faye, about focusing on the curriculum first and making sure we're achieving those goals, and then kind of choosing best fit, really, because there are parts of Prime as well that are really good. The way that it's laid out is good for the kids, and then other times we know that we might just go a different way.
And being consistent in the maths vocabulary throughout the school, because that's used in a certain, that's really important, because the language is used and that comes through with the Prime language that the juniors use. Yeah.
So how can parents help? So we've obviously got Prototech there and timestables.co.nz, and
children are really familiar with this. It's just good practice, and it's not onerous for you because it marks it itself rather than you having to mark it, because I know how busy it is. But they should know what stage they're on into practice, and it's just to get that fast facts. And we work through them at school through this, so it's not like, I mean, some of you who love the maths, you would be able to teach it in the background. It takes them probably about 5 minutes to do one. But do the New Zealand stages. We're just brought in the new curriculum rather than the old stages that we would have used. Good way of practicing times tables in different formats, different ways. It shows the arrays, it shows division, it's got games as well. Plus, again, just like general games that you would play at home through maths, which Adele will talk to in the next slide of other ways. But these are just online reinforcement practice, basic fact sites, very good ones, and free.
And Prototech as well is actually it can be good for younger students depending on where they are. We use them with Year 3 last year and some Year 2s, particularly towards the end of the year, so it is a really good site. So I've just put together a few ideas on what you can do at home to support your child's maths, because we know that maths isn't just something that you do in the classroom at 12 o'clock, it's something that we do all day long. So doing things like playing games, that's a huge thing for children, and we find that children are not playing as many games at home as they used to, busy family life. But even things like Monopoly, chess, checkers, anything with numbers where they're rolling the dice, they know straight away that's 6, they don't have to count the dots. Asking them questions such as, what are you hoping for? and they know they really want to roll a 4 because they want to get to that one right there. So having all that maths language in there, the counting. Things like scavenger hunts. If you've got a really young child, you can ask them, how many circles can you find in this room? So you're looking, they're counting, they're also looking at geometry as well and shapes. Lots of card games. Card games are great. You just have your pack of cards, or you can have your Go Fish, or there's some really cool ones out now at Kmart and the Warehouse that are pretty cheap. Things like anything to do with counting. So if you know your child is struggling to learn to count, they can't count to 20 yet, or they can't count to 100, get them counting, make it fun. Anything, hopscotch, counting forwards, backwards, how many bounces can you do before you lose the ball? Time's a really interesting one. So we noticed that children they're very focused on the digital now. The analog's kind of slipped away a little bit, but they still need to know analog. So lots of discussions about time. Oh, we've got to leave in 10 minutes. What time will it be in 10 minutes? What does the shorthand tell you? Whereabouts is it pointing to? Lots of questions about things, days of the week and months, and it's just having that dialogue, getting that oral language out as well, because maths is huge. It's not just can you count and do your times tables.
Seasons and times.
Yeah, all of that, absolutely. Yeah, patterns as well. Patterns is an easy one to do at home. With beads, can you make your own pattern? What is a pattern? Can you do a pattern on your body? Patterns, we've found that children who are really good at patterns have a better success with things like understanding your fractions. They have better knowledge of maths. They can see patterns with numbers as well. So yeah, that can really help them succeed. What else have I got there? And just the last one as well, counting forwards and backwards, all the way up to 100, all the way back. We'll start from 82. Can you count from 82 up to 100? And you'll skip counting in 2s, 5s, and 10s. So that can just be done in the car. So I remember when I was a kid, my mum used to make me sing my 3 times tables on the way to school. So it's just simple little things like that, and making it really fun and engaging as well, so that they want to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. So where to next at St Mary's? So with the message is ensuring the curriculum comes first. We are aligning our hero goals with the new curriculum, and we're very close to getting ready to have those live. So thank you for your patience. Ensuring we're extending our students to reach or to be exposed to each phase of learning. Ongoing monitoring of the teaching of maths across the school. Obviously, we've got a very strong maths team. We've got a certain maths identity, I think we're looking at, aren't we, within each area. We know teaching of maths looks quite different in year 1 as it does to year 6. So as much as we have consistency of teaching the curriculum, it has a very different flavour in terms of how it looks across the school. A lot more, well, there's not a lot more resources in the juniors because it's still a lot of resources in the seniors, isn't it? But then we take the resources away and it becomes more abstract and it becomes the numbers. But every time it becomes challenging, we bring the resources back in, the hands-on equipment, so they can understand, you know, that the picture of it, what the actual amount is, what the number is. It's great. We've got the team leaders as part of the maths team, and we've got this. We're ensuring we've got a balanced maths program. That we're not just saying we've just got to use Prime, or we've just got to use, this is the Learner First is another model that we're using. We're very open to exploring and to our learning as well, to have the very best maths program. 1 more teacher only day for this year, and then next year we have 2 more. So every school is receiving 4 teacher only days on the new maths curriculum. We've been very fortunate to have our 2 dates within term 1 and term 2, so that we feel like we can hit the ground running, and we can, whatever information we learn, we will share with you. So the more knowledge we gain, we constantly want to share so that we can have that partnership with you as well. And so that's really it. And it's great that they're facilitated by the Ministry of Education. So it is really, these are, I suppose, the experts in the new maths curriculum, aren't they? And they'll share the very latest updates with us. And they're very much, they're not, the facilitators do not promote any one of the programs. There was 3 different programs that were provided by the ministry, but they're very much teaching us about the curriculum, and they really don't discuss the other resources that we use. So that's up to us as a school, as our identity of what resources we would we would like to use to support that. So feel free if you've got any questions, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. Carolyn.
Was Prime one of those 3 resources that they recommended?
Oh, yeah, it was. So there was Prime, there was Oxford, and there was Numicon, wasn't there? But Oxford, maths no problem. So it was 4, wasn't it? It was 4. Yeah, sorry, it was 4. And Prime was one of them. So we felt quite fortunate that we'd started our journey last year. And then it was great because we got free resources this year. We got the books. So we were very, very happy with that.
They've got a good scope and sequence too. It just makes logical sense the way they're teaching it.
And I think because we've taught it for a year, we're almost at completion of the first practice book that we've done. We kind of go, yeah, we see how this fits together. So we feel happy we can delve into parts of it rather than necessarily have to work from front to back, which is what we intended to do to start with. But now we know more, we can adapt it more.
Yeah. I don't want to get political. I'll try to ask this a nice way. What does the Teachers Association think about this? Because I would hate in 3 years' time for it to be pulled under the rug again and just like switched over, just because we get different governments coming in every 3 years. That's my idea.
It's been a challenge that it's been brought in so quickly. And I think, we try not to get involved and listen to because it's here. This is what I've got. And all I can think of is the expectations are high, and which is great.
Yeah, no, I'm great.
So I'm kind of happy with that. But I know that's what happens, But in terms of, because it is, systematic and because it's very, very clear, I can't see, the drawbacks are it's been fast. Whereas we're having to assess children against a benchmark that we're still learning. And so that's challenging. But in terms of, there was obviously an urgency. And so within education, we're always charged to do as we're kind of asked. So I can't see that it would be, there's anything detrimental about it in terms of, yeah.
I think most teachers appreciate the clarity in this new curriculum. It's very clear as to what you need to teach and when a child should not by. Yeah, so I think overall, I think teachers are fairly good.
Cool. And it's aligning us with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Which is really important. Yeah.
Sorry, so on that note, that it's clear and the expectations seem to be higher, will there be a need for extensions class? And if there are children that are already performing at the new expectation, will there be a space for them to be extended?
They'll always be extended in terms of, so if you have, say, a child in year 4 and they're already almost exceeding where that year 4, they'll always be taught as a year 5 or within that year 5, always. And that was always within the previous curriculum. We'll never say, oh, you're year 4, you're achieving that, you just can't practicing. It's always extend. It's always going to be, right, I need to look at either the next phase of learning or the next year level. Because I can see, just like when you'll see when the hero goals come out, if your child's achieving already all of those goals.
That's new for me as well, because I'm not familiar with the hero goals. I'm not entirely sure what they are, but they'll come out. So
they will. Yeah, we're doing a lot of work on that at the moment, so that as soon as we have them ready to be launched, we'll share them. So that's another way to support at home. You'll be able to see exactly what your child's learning, and that's another way that you can practice at home to practice their goals.
And the individual goals or the year?
No, individual. Yeah.
But you'll have the campus in the background of what you're expected to know through the year levels, which would be really good if you wanted, just to have a look. But they will take a while to actually fill too, because the teacher actually has to check that. So it's probably going to take us a time as a teacher to actually say tick them off as such, but they'll be there in the background. So it's going to be quite a transition year, really.
It will be.
But
Yeah.
we thought it's better that you see what's there and the expectations.
Sorry,
What do the children know about attending? Because if you've got a child that's already behind in maths, now they're going to be even more behind in maths, aren't they? So potentially, that's going to be really hard for them to cope with that. And obviously, we're going to have to support them at home more as well. But yeah, what do they know, or what is helping them?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was gonna ask, was the flip side of the
Hmm.
extension, what happens for those who are not anywhere near.
Yeah, so
expectations.
that's exactly what we're doing, especially in the senior school. We're only having a couple of years. We're teaching to where they are at. Because it wouldn't be fair to be teaching a book 3 to a book 6, say. But to cover what the curriculum wanted us to do, that was what I was trying to explain. They've been exposed, instead of only that, and never exposed to the other stuff, and so the year 6, year 5 curriculum, they're exposed to all this, so they've just got a really nice, rounded, otherwise they'll never learn, does that make sense? So that's why I feel like we've got a really, really strong maths program at the school that covers everything. And our PAT results in general across the country, that's a standardised test, we're looking pretty good. Because we do a PAT term 1 and 3.
And I think we're really conscious of that when we do bring the dials back, that it's really scaffolded because, it's could be quite, upsetting if then you're thinking, oh, it looks like we've slipped back. So it's about how we roll that out. That's why we want to make sure when we do that, we do it in the best way.
But the kids going to feel like they're worse than they already were. Because it's changed.
I don't feel, because the children don't know any different in their teaching at the moment, would you say? They're being taught in an explicit group, and we're not measuring them against this like directly. They've had their PATs, which is in year 4 to 6, our standardised test. And then you use that information, which will be shared with parents as well, but you use that information then to inform your teaching, don't you? I can see there's gaps in my class, I'm going to teach this. So, yeah, and all the assessments are to support, obviously, the student, but to support the teacher, to teach them to their needs. So we definitely don't want that to happen, No.
The way that we assess now is very different to when we were at school. So when we were at school and you had your paper assessment and you only got 10 out of 25 and you can see that that other person got this, or you had to stand up and say your score. That doesn't happen anymore. Generally, the assessment is between you and the teacher. The only comparison is you and yourself. You're not really comparing yourself with a number or a score anyway.
Yeah, and it's the purpose for the teacher where to teach to. Yes, and we do have, we try and get across to our children all the time that good mathematicians make mistakes, good mathematicians ask questions. It's so important that the children really, really feel comfortable. I actually don't get this. I want to know, and encouraged to do that. Because if they knew everything and they don't make mistakes, then they'd be several maths, year 13. Do you know what I mean? It's good to make mistakes and we learn from them. So we try and get that across to them as well. So they feel comfortable and it's a safe, comfortable environment within the classroom.
And I think having that variety of what that maths class looks like, that when we shared that one about the move and prove, when it had A, B, C, D, or it had that discuss and defend, there's nobody wrong. It's about your opinion matters. What you see is different from what somebody else sees. So there's lots of exposure within a maths class for, different abilities or different, the way that you see maths. So it's definitely not something that we'll have to be very mindful of that as well in all of our assessments and with our hero goals, that because, it's lifted probably by a year, the expectations, that particularly our older children who might have had that awareness, that they don't feel like that. So that's up to, that's lots of discussion around that as well, and how we report to you and how we look at ways to support. But just knowing that, the goalposts have shifted, haven't they?
And the move and prove are an assessment in itself, because we never say the answer. You're not supposed to say the answer. So they discuss, and then someone will say, "Oh, Jimmy, why did you think A?" And then Jimmy gives his explanation and say, "Now, is anyone going to change their answer now because they listened to Jimmy, who's actually right?" And then you can see them moving, but and then you assess. They don't know whether they're right or wrong, but then you're assessing. Okay, I need to spend more time on this particular concept. If that makes sense. So that's a safe environment. So that's another form of assessment that you can make. And the kids love it.
It is, and it's like generally in lots of classes, movement as well, isn't it? And it's actually, quite a fun, a warm up or a finish of a maths lesson. And it's a great form of assessment. Like, have the kids really got this? Oh, I thought they had, So it's a mini assessment, but the children know nothing about that they're being assessed, don't they? Mm.
And we like asking questions and we like writing hands up as well as sentence. So we just choose hands down, right, and just get rid of people asking.
Mm.
Is that level at year 13 the same level as it was before? So we've just kind of changed the case, or is it actually higher?
Yeah, it's like within primary, it's really shifted, hasn't it? Wasn't it? I think year 7 and 8 has stayed almost the same. Was that to our understanding? But it's like things have shifted down a year at primary.
Yeah, I think the concern was the amount of learning that was in year 7 and 8. So we were moving through primary school, and then all of a sudden, the expectations at year 7 and 8 were really high. So that's why they tried to bring them down a little bit, because then they noticed that children were really starting to struggle in intermediate.
Mm. Yeah.
I just got a question, as a parent, like normally we spend like 10-15 minutes with our child at home. But most of the time, I don't know what he learns in that day in the school, like, to help him. So it's like, if it's a 5 table, like multiplication of 5, it's really hard for me to understand what he learned on that day. Is there any chance we can, or are they allowed to bring their book to school, book to home? Like, I know that they use the prime book, but sometimes I ask, can you bring it home so I can see what you're learning? But they say they're not allowed to do that. So with the new system, do you think the parents can see that, that if they're happy to bring it home, can we see it at least?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because I think the reason that we've said it doesn't go home, because we just want to make sure it's back in class, and what we don't want is it going home and then them doing pages and pages at home, because they need to have the teaching first. And that's probably the reason that we've said the books aren't to go home. But I'm sure if you spoke to the teacher, or you can have that communication with the teacher in terms of what are they currently learning in class, and when the hero goals are live, you'll be able to see as well kind of what they're learning.
Like I checked in hero, but it's like a common heading that and it doesn't
It's not up yet.
Yeah. So as a parent, it's hard for me to find where to help my child.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we need to make sure there's that communication.
And I think that's a really great question. This is why this is such a
Yeah.
priority, because we're having our parent-teacher conferences in weeks 9 or 10.
Mm.
And you can get really good conversation with them there. And honestly, if any parent wants to help their child at home, any teacher would go, right, let's do this. But this is why the basic facts is the first priority in times families, because that is an easy thing to help with and to get into practice for replay. But catch up with the teachers.
Like, what I'm telling as a parent, I don't have a resource or anything that, to help with the child. Like the games is there, but to connect with the day is what they have learned. It's really hard from a parent's side. We don't have a resource in home.
And so as a maths team, I think we can look at that, can't we? And ways that we can get that communication out to you.
Like a printed thing for a day in home, and we can completely help them, which is connected to that topic, Like it might be helping them with an addition. And when they come home, I'm not really sure where they are at with addition and how far they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can look at that.
10-15 minutes with them, and I always think, and I asked him, and he said, we're just doing that book, and he wouldn't give me much clue, he wouldn't connect with me.
We can look at that and how our communication is. I think that's really good for us as a maths team. So how we can support. But yeah, so thank you, everybody. Thank you. And if you do have any other questions, just feel free to either talk to your child's teacher, you can email one of us, and we'll just keep in regular communication with you. So thanks for coming along today. This will be shared, the video as well, so if there's any parts that you missed, or if somebody couldn't make it, so have a lovely afternoon, and thank you for coming along.